Hey there, welcome back to Friends You Can Grow With. I'm your host, Matt Nesbury. Sitting down with me today, two ladies that I have had the pleasure of knowing for years now. Two ladies I've worked with for years now, and I'm very excited to have you guys on and talk about our topic today, but I don't want to give that away. First, let's start with a little bit about who you guys are. Give us an introduction to you. We'll start with you, Penny.
Okay. Hi, my name is Penny. I actually work here at the Ark Church I am the volunteer coordinator. It's totally not where I started. I started in Ark Kids, loved it, but I also love what I'm doing now, being able to help people get plugged into the area that they feel called to serve in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also sitting down with us is Debbie. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Debbie.
My name's Debbie Shoemaker, and I volunteer. A lot of times when people ask me what I do, I say I'm a professional volunteer because I serve in different areas. In the church, I help with children's ministry, getting things ready for Wednesday night, and then serving with second grade girls as a small group leader. I also help lead teams when we have Serve Saturday, which is through Penny's area.
Yeah.
I also volunteer teaching an adult Bible study class, and then in my community, I volunteer at the library and an elementary school doing reading intervention, and then also volunteer with Project Playground. So end up going to other communities, but also in other countries in the world. So.
Yeah. And if you haven't guessed the topic by now, it's volunteering. And who better to have than our volunteer coordinator and a professional volunteer and you heard her list, all the places she volunteers. And when we decided to have this topic, you two instantly came to mind. One, Debbie, you do 90% of my job for me when you volunteer, and it's phenomenal. And Penny is
there
the
to help
master. Yeah. Penny is the master volunteer recruiter. We always go to Penny if we need a volunteer. And I'm so excited to have you guys on today talking about volunteering. And I thought a good starting spot would be if we broke some myths about volunteering, some common myths I've heard. One is they don't need my help. How do you feel about that? When you hear someone say, I don't think they really need my help.
A lot of places you can walk in and tell they need your help.
Yeah.
One thing about the Ark Church is it doesn't look like we need help, but we always do. There's always a time when someone is out and we need someone to fill that spot. There's always behind the scene things that people don't look at. A lot of times people think that they say, oh, you work at the church? What do you do? And you start telling them and they're like, wow, I had no idea. So I think part of that is just knowledge to let people know there's always an opportunity to jump in and help someone else.
Yeah. Debbie, any thoughts on that? You volunteer here at the church, but outside in your community, would you say most places need help?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't volunteer anywhere where they couldn't use more people.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that's one of the things that Satan does to discourage you by saying you're not going to make a difference, or you're only one person. That's a huge problem. How are you going to ever make a difference? And I feel like he calls us uniquely, like, yes, I can volunteer, but I'm not you. And so God's gifted us uniquely who we are, and nobody else can serve in that place. And especially in a church, we're a body of people, and we're all unique in ourselves. And so for our church to function, the way it would be the most healthy is that each person is praying for the Holy Spirit to guide them, like what my purpose is, what my part is in church, because every single person has a way that they can help to make the church healthier. And Penny is very good about that. I mean, she initially recruited me here too. So she is really good at, let's look at what you have to offer. And God has put you in this church for a unique reason. And so nobody else can fill that spot.
And when it comes to what you're saying, we're all a part of that body. We all have to function differently to make that body work. How does someone go about figuring out what body part they are, I guess, or where their fit is? What's a good practice as far as if I'm looking to get involved?
I tell people that, because some of them they come to class and they're like, I want to serve, but I don't know where I want to serve, what I want to do. And I just visit with them a minute and I'll say, let's just talk. Let's see, when I say certain words, where do you get excited? If I say children, do you get excited about children? Or are you like, I'm with children all the time? No.
Yeah.
Oh, are you excited about serving people, like in the cafe, serving food? So what excites you? What is going to fill you and make you feel good about serving? Because if you are just, and I do tell people too, if you're not sure still, just jump into a spot. Jump into a spot, start serving there. And if within 6 months it's not a fit, or 6 weeks, then let's revisit it. Because a lot of times, once you get into that spot, you meet people, you create a connection, you realize things that are going on that is your gift. I agree with Debbie. God has given everybody a gift or a talent to be used for his purpose. So no matter whether it's in the church or out of the church, there's so many places that you can serve to fulfill that purpose in your life. And by doing it, God gets the glory for it. And in turn, you're feeling better about yourself.
Yeah.
If you're depressed, jump out and serve. If you're going through a hardship, jump out and serve. Get out of the me mindset and help someone else, and it will totally change your life.
Why do you think that is? That when we seem to be going through the hardest moments of life, that it can get better when we volunteer or serve and focus on something else?
I truly believe it's because we get out of the me mindset. It's not all about me. I'm not rolling in self-pity or anything like that. I'm focusing on someone else. Going into a school like Debbie does, I used to do that and I loved it. And reading to children, or helping a teacher that's behind on her work so she can concentrate. She's the one that God gave the gift and talent to teach. I'm there helping sharpen pencils so she doesn't have to do that and ignore the children. So no matter where it is, at the library that Debbie does, she may just be sorting books, but she's given the librarian the opportunity to do her gift and talent. And so it's just amazing how better you feel when you can help someone else to develop their gift or talent that the Lord has given them.
Debbie, have you found that to be true in your volunteering as well?
Yeah, I think part of the reason that it helps us is because we're following Jesus's example. So he came to serve, not to be served. And he also commands us to do it. And so when you're in his will, you're doing what he's commanded us to do, and you're becoming more like Jesus, then it can't help but help you. And I know there have been times when I'm going through real difficult times in other places of my life or with other relationships. And the fact that if I pray to the Holy Spirit, he will give me the ability to go to that place and fulfill that need. And so for a period of time, like Penny was talking about, it's not about me or my life. It's okay, I'm going to drop that at the door. Sometimes you really have to deliberately put that in a box, put it away, and I'm going to go do this. And it always, because you're in God's purpose for your life, that energizes me, it refreshes me. A lot of times, if it's something that I'm dealing with and I'm helping someone else deal with it, then it's healing me too at the same time.
Yeah.
I do think there are times when, if you're really in a crisis and God's got you in a place where you need healing, you don't need to bring that to that place because you're wanting to do no harm. You're not wanting to add to a crisis situation if it's a crisis that somebody's in. But for the most part, I think he's designed it that way because we're in his purpose and we're following his example.
And it just lends itself to the fact that God made us to all work in unity with each other. And community is such a huge part of the Christian life. When it comes to volunteering, and you brought up the example of helping out at a school, I'm just sharpening pencils, or I'm just sorting books. How do you keep the big picture mindset of what I'm doing is helping, and maybe even helping the kingdom of God move forward, when in reality what I'm doing is changing a dirty diaper or sharpening pencils or sorting books? How do you keep that focus?
Again, sometimes it can be hard. And again, I feel like it's because you may be sitting there going, okay, I sharpened a pencil today, whoopie-doo. Again, it's the big picture. You have to focus on, I sharpened 20 pencils. That was 20 pencils the teacher did not have to stop teaching to come sharpen these pencils for the children. Or I used to help out doing Tuesday folders. I would sort paperwork and put them in a folder. But that was a time that the teacher didn't have to stop and take time away from that child to sort the folder. And so it gave me a good feeling that I was able to help her to be able to concentrate on that gift and talent that the Lord gave her to teach children. That's her purpose, is to be there to teach children. And I think no matter where you go, whether it's sharpening a pencil, whether it's asking a child to be quiet during service time, whether it's serving someone in the cafe, you're doing something as unto the Lord, and you're giving someone else the time to do what they need to do. You mentioned a minute ago that Debbie comes up and helps you. And she does things in the resource room to help you get ready for class, because that's part of your things that you're responsible for. But by her doing that, it gives you time to focus on this, or time to focus on something else that only you can do, because that's your talent. She's able to pull some burden off of you to help you do other things. And by being able to do that, she's part of that process. When you're doing something, she's part of it. And you just have to focus knowing, hey, I'm part of that, helping that teacher teach that class. I'm part of that pastor helping baptize that someone, because I stood over here and folded a towel. You know, so you do have to look at the big picture and know that you're included in that person getting baptized.
Yeah. That's so good.
I have an example of that.
Yeah.
And I think really too, there can be a danger of like saying what's more important in serving than other things, like teaching's more important, or preaching's more important, or being on stage to worship's more important. And yet sometimes people will even say, I only do this. And it's not you only do this. Like, it's, again, to function and be healthy, it all needs to get done. And if God's called you to do it, then there's a holy purpose for it, for his glory. And I remember one time I was on disaster relief. It was like 100 degrees after a flood. I was in a house with like no ventilation, and I've been trying to connect with this homeowner, you know, and I was really frustrated because I wasn't connecting with her. And I thought, this is not very spiritual what I'm doing here. And I was having a pity party. I was on the floor where there had been mud, sewage, whatever, on the floor, and I was pulling out nails out of the floor. And the homeowner was physically across catty corner from me, and she was on the floor pulling out nails out of her floor. And I didn't know her. I mean, I had to travel to go there or whatever. And so I'm having a pity party. I'm hot. I'm tired, and this is boring, pulling these nails out of the floor, and it's not very spiritual. I want to talk to this lady about Jesus. You know, I'm seriously saying this in my mind, and I'm praying it to God. And he's telling me, you know what? And I mean, I'm talking to her too as I'm doing this in my head. And and Jesus tells me, like, if I was there standing right next to you and I said, pull out 500 nails, would you do it? And I said, I would pull out 500 nails. No problem, Jesus. How about 1,000? And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, okay, sorry. Like, for having a pity party, I'm really not in the right frame of mind. I'm changing my mind. Jesus, I'm going to do it for you. And so then my whole attitude about it changed. And I'm like, maybe you're just teaching me what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be serving you no matter what you tell me to do, and no matter how hot I am or how boring it is. Anyway, as we physically start moving towards the middle of the floor, meeting together, then I am connecting with her. And then it gives me the opportunity to speak to her about spiritual things. And what she told me was, you're somebody who doesn't even know me. You were willing to get down in the dirt and on the floor and pull nails out for me. And so it gave me the opportunity, I think, for her to see Jesus in the fact of the humbleness of it. And then to have a curiosity about, why are you doing this? Because God called me to do, and to remind you that he loves you. He hasn't forgotten you, that he sees you. And in this way, I'm serving him, but he's telling you, I love you. I haven't forgotten you. And so it really changed my perspective on, because I've seen him work and draw people to him and transform people more through doing something that's dirty and hot and not comfortable and very menial task that you would say, if somebody asked me when I'm going there, is that going to be a spiritual thing? I'd think no, but more in that way than talking to somebody. And in my comfort zone, I guess,
So it's almost keeping the mindset of, you're not necessarily serving the teacher, the homeowner, the whoever. Exactly. You're doing it to serve the Lord.
And he's going to use it because he sees the whole big picture. I don't see the whole big picture. He saw her. He saw me. Can I get you over there? If I wouldn't have been obedient, he could still make it happen. He's God.
Absolutely.
But I get to have the privilege of getting to see the transformation. And he's also teaching me and changing my heart about my attitude, which was bad.
I love the fact that you said the privilege. I got the privilege of doing that. Because you know what? If there's something that needs to be done, the Lord doesn't need us to do it. But he chooses to use us to do it.
Wow.
And it is an opportunity. Because if I don't obey, if he calls me to do something and I'm like, I don't have the time for that, Lord, give it to someone else. He's going to use someone else to do it. And they're going to take that opportunity and it's going to be amazing. And now I've lost out because there could have been something there for me. I may have needed to pull that nail. I may have needed to change that diaper, sharpen that pencil. It may have needed to be me to learn something that the Lord needed me to know in order to help him somewhere else. So if you don't listen and be obedient, you're missing out on a lot. I've had a lot of people say, I don't have time to serve. And my response is, if that's your statement, you don't have time to not serve. The Lord will repay you in time. He will give you your time back. The time that it takes for you to go do something for him, he's going to give that back to you. And in abundance. You're going to be like, oh, wow, I could have spent another hour over there doing something. And it just, I don't know, I just love volunteering and doing things outside of what my normal scope is. Because it makes a difference. Just like you said, pulling those nails, and I love the fact that Debbie shared the fact that she was having a pity party. Because sometimes
I
people
never
think,
guessed it with
me
Debbie.
either. I mean, this is a professional volunteer. She doesn't have those moments.
I do,
but
though.
she shared that she does. And we all do. We're all human. But if you step out and do it, that's where the difference is made. If you step back and say, I'm not going to do that today. I'm just not feeling it today. Half the battle is getting there. And then there's such an opportunity that you get so refreshed that you feel so much better than if you would have not done it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
There's no feeling like it.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And Debbie, as a professional volunteer, and Penny as someone who recruits volunteers and volunteers herself, I'm sure you get many opportunities to volunteer and give your skills. How do you know what are the right opportunities to say yes to and the right ones to say no to? Because I feel like volunteering is one of those things of once you open your eyes to see all the needs, you see all the needs. How do you know which needs God is asking you specifically to meet?
I went through that at one time. Those that know me know I have no boundaries. I just would say yes to everything. Penny, can you? Yes. Penny, can you? Yes. And I was just, because I love that feeling that it gave me helping people.
Yeah.
And so it was yes, 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 yes. And then finally I stopped one day and I was like, wow, okay, let's go on. And someone came to me and said, do you realize by you taking all the yeses that you're not giving someone else an opportunity to be blessed? And I was like, no, I never thought of that. I don't go into volunteering because I need a blessing. I just do it because I love to help people. But when they made that statement, okay, here's 5 people that all need something to do, but you've taken all 5 tasks. Where are these 4 people going to do now? And so I did step back and say, okay, Lord, let me step back, let me calm down, let me give other people opportunities to feel as amazing as I feel by being able to do this, and be able to say, no, I can't do that right now. Because he does want us to spend time with our family.
Yeah.
And if it's taking you away from your family, then maybe we need to think about it. Maybe if you're serving in 5 or 6 areas, look at the one that doesn't fill you up the most, the one that you're just doing because there's a need. So in cases like that, I would say just really, because there are seasons and everything, the Lord's never going to tell you, your season's up, Debbie, don't serve anymore. Right. He's never going to tell you that. But he is going to give you grace for the times that you do it and help and strength. But there are other people that can do those things, and just to reach out to other people to bring them alongside you. And then maybe that's the person that's going to take your place.
Yeah.
Because there is a season for everything.
Yeah.
He's going to move you through a season of serving in an area, but he's never going to tell you to stop. He may transition you to a different area. You've learned everything I need you to know here. So let's move you over here and let's let this person take your spot. But it's never, your time's up. You've satisfied your cup.
Yeah.
It's full. You don't have to serve anymore. You don't have to volunteer anymore. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Debbie, any insight from you of how to know which opportunities to say yes to, what to say no to when it comes to volunteering?
I think that I'm definitely, he's taught me to not, I would get so, like people want me, they need me or whatever. And I also had a very hard time saying no. And so I would say no before I prayed about it. And I have learned that if it's going to be fruitful and bring God glory, where I'm not feeling like I'm just like bumping my head against a wall, and where I'm going to see like people drawn to him and there's going to be transformation happen, that I need to pray about it first. We all have the same amount of time in a day. I have been told by multiple people, you just must not have anything to do. And it's like, no, that's not it. It's where your priorities lie. And he's given me a way to serve. in the times when I had young children, before I had them and I was working, so we all had the same amount of time. And then it's just praying over, God, how can I use my resources and my time the best way to serve you? And what I find is like the times that's worked the best is when I pray over that, because they're good. There are a lot of things that are good things. They're good things to do. It's not like you're doing a bad thing. But if it's going to be fruitful and you're in his purpose, then I think that he tells us that he'll guide us. And so I'm waiting and not getting ahead of him. That's what I would tend to do. I get ahead of him and then say, oh, I'm over here doing this. Will you please bless this and make this awesome? Because, I'm doing this. And then he's like, wait a minute, follow, that was a big thing for me. Follow me. I'll lead you. And here's another thing, because I always used to think, because he's put it in my heart to serve like elementary school. I had like a carnival in my backyard. Like I organized the whole thing for that muscular dystrophy Jerry Lewis telethon thing, because I would see it every year and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to help Jerry's kids like be able to walk again or whatever. And so like I organized this whole thing in my backyard. Like it's been God just put it in my heart, like serve my family, my community, my church, and then the world, or whatever, in whatever way I can. But like, now I forget what I was going with that.
Knowing which opportunities to say yes to and no to.
Yes. And so you can do nice or good things, but if you get ahead of him, then it's not really where he wants you to be. And that's what I was going to say. It was like I was looking for the big Mother Teresa. I'm going to have this big ministry moment. I'm going to save all these people. And what God showed me was, if you make a true difference and meet a true need in one person in your life, and they are transformed and brought to Jesus, that is a huge eternal difference. So it's like, it's not about numbers. It's not about what this big ministry you have. And what God has shown me is like choosing like where you're going to serve, is that if you pray and the Holy Spirit's guiding you each and every day when you get up, he is going to lead you to it. He's going to lead you through how he prepared you, because you've already got stuff that he gave you and you're who you are, as long as you're being authentic to yourself and using those. Every day he's going to lead you to it. When you're obedient to him. And so like I used to think I had to figure it out ahead of time. Oh, where's this place I'm going to go, or I'm going to create it or whatever. And then I just found out, you know what? It's not really, I don't have to have the big picture and know it all, because he is going to lead me. And when I've done that, he's led me through, it's just amazing. Like the places he's led me to serve and the people he brings together, and they're doing the same thing, and it just like multiplies. It's God. It's like, so it's great.
It's like the old story of when you put two horses together, they don't pull twice as strong. It's exponential, the energy they have, because they're working together. I'm curious to know from both of you how you got started volunteering. Was it something you were passionate about very young? Is it something you had to grow and stretch in? What was that like?
Wow. I did serve when I was young. I served at the hospital. Back then they called them candy stripers.
You were a candy striper.
I was a candy striper.
I don't know what that means. Can you tell me what a candy striper is?
Did you have an apron that was red and white striped? Okay. That's kind of where it came from. The aprons look like a candy cane. They were striped.
That's literally all it means?
And, well, not all that you do, but that's what they call them.
But we wore those aprons, and we went into the hospital. And so we had little carts that we would go to the cafeteria and fill with Jell-O and juices, and then we would go and put books and magazines on this cart, and we would literally go from room to room, open the door and say, hey, how are you? Is there anything that you would like? I have juice, I have Jell-O, I have a book, to whoever was that patient in that bed, and just be that. And it, I really enjoyed that, doing that as a teen. And then kind of got away from it, and didn't really volunteer other than like as a teen. If I was in school, I would help my teachers or just little things. And then and I got away from the Lord, when I got back into church, at first I didn't. My daughter, who's the one that got us back in church, knew automatically she wanted to serve, and she wanted to serve with the children. She loves children. So okay, go ahead. I'll sit here. I would get up early and bring her early so she could serve. And I knew I wanted to. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So I sat there for a long time, and I regret that.
Yeah.
But I would just sit and I would watch people, and I was like, they need my help. But if they really needed my help, they would ask me. But they were so busy, they didn't have time to come ask me, hey, you know. So I sat there for a while, and then finally one day I was just like, okay, I'm just going to do something. And I started greeting, and I would stand at the doors and greet people for a while. And then someone had come and asked me, hey, we're short driving carts. Can you help us there? And sure. So I moved over to that. And I drove carts for a while. I think they probably kicked me off of carts rather than me stepping down.
Yeah, I've seen you drive, so that doesn't shock me.
My mission was to get you to the door as fast
Boy,
as I
I
could.
imagine
there you go.
accomplished it.
Yeah. So I think they probably asked someone to come move me to a different area. And so I did production for a while.
Yeah.
I pulled cords to get microphones ready, to get cameras ready, to put the words on the screen. And I felt like that season in my life, I was learning a lot. I knew nothing. They trained me on all of that. I was able to take everything they taught me and then move down to Art Kids who had a need. They had no one down there that knew how to do any of that. And I had just been taught. And so I moved over to Art Kids area in their production and helped put their lessons on the screens and all that for the longest time.
Yeah.
And never thought about serving with the children, other than, hey, no, this is what I do.
Yeah.
I come in and set it up. I run it. I tear it down. Don't ask me to tie a shoe. Don't ask me, my ministry there grew. I started recruiting people to help. I had a nice little team. They loved it when we moved into this building because we had so many rooms that we would have served in that aspect. But then I felt a tug from the Lord. I would sit and watch as I was doing the lessons of people being able to interact with the kids and all that. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. I think I want to try that. So there's a lot of, when I got into Art Kids, I stayed the longest. I loved the feeling it gave me by serving the children, just playing a game with them, helping them, color something, helping them put a jacket on because it was time to leave, helping them just in any aspect. Children just adore an adult that can give them attention. Yeah. And that's what they want is some attention. And being able to pour into their lives made a huge difference in my life. I know you see that day in and day out when you get to do that. Now that I've moved over to the spot that I'm in, I love getting to help people find what they're called to do. I feel like, again, I'm part of that. When I plug someone in to a spot where they're thriving, I was part of that. Yeah. I was part of them being able to bless the Lord with the gift and talent that He put in them. Yeah. No matter where, if it's the parking lot, if it's the carts, if it's the children, if it's wherever it is, I was part of helping them get plugged into that spot. Yeah. And that is very rewarding for me.
Yeah. That's such a great, I love the transition you go through of how you started and unlocking that passion in you. That's such a great story. Debbie, how did you get started volunteering? Were you always a professional volunteer?
Pretty much.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you grew up, you had
I work when
siblings.
I have to.
right?
Yes, I did. I guess I did serve my, I would say it started serving in my family. I was the oldest daughter. It was
And
kind of
serving your siblings is
chaotic.
tough.
Yeah,
Definitely.
chaotic upbringing. And so God, I think, had that in my spirit to be able to serve my family. And then I grew up in a small church in Ohio. The churches are not big like they are in Texas. At least not where I lived.
Not
They
where I
were very
lived either,
small.
yeah.
And so everybody pitched in. I mean, everybody had things that they did to ways to serve. And it's kind of funny because then when I did move to Texas, I thought, oh, there's these big churches and there's going to be all these people who are volunteering. And like you say, like, oh, they won't need me as much or whatever. And it's not the case.
Yeah,
So
not the case.
it's
at
not
all.
the case. Just more opportunities to serve.
Yeah.
More opportunities to serve. So
Yeah.
but in my degree is in occupational therapy. So that's a caring profession, health profession. And he used that. And then I've taught in a lot of different ways, different things. And so I feel like whether I'm getting paid for it or sometimes I'm not getting paid for it, or like sometimes like this year, the volunteer thing turned into a opportunity for at least short-term employment. And what I told Matt was, well, I'll do it if I can still, like, I set my schedule and I was like, if I can do this, but I can't work on these days. And they've already tried to
encroach on
have
that.
me work on that. And I'm like, no,
I'll fight them.
nope.
Yeah.
And so, it was like, if I can still serve you, God, because again, I prayed over that too, when given the opportunity, and that maybe I couldn't do some things for a period of time. God, is that a distraction or is that provision from you?
Yeah.
He showed me that it was provision from me by the way things lined up and the fact that I could still do these things to serve him. So it's always been a priority. And I will say I've had the privilege in doing that. And I'm not going to say, like, again, we all have the same number of hours in the day.
Yeah.
I could have, and there were times that I prayed over that, like, God, instead of serving this way, if I worked full time, because I could pretty much have doubled what my husband and I were making or whatever. And so he was showing me, or at least teaching me, yeah, you could do that. But he was showing me, and I'm just talking about in my case personally, this is where I want you to go, and I'm going to provide for you. And the thing is, he has provided over and above, and like anything I could imagine. I never even thought I would ever own my own house, like seriously. And so, like, the ways that he has provided and the things he has provided, and like you said, you don't do it to get those things, but you can't outgive God. And it's just like the opportunities I've had through that.
Yeah.
And he has always provided, and over and above anything that I can expect. And so he's taught me, I am your provider, your perfect provider. And yes, if you're in my obedience, you're in the safest place that you can be. You don't need to worry about it. And it has been true throughout my life. And so to me, I don't feel regrets or like that I've missed out on anything. And my life's been enriched because of it. So,
yeah.
And
when we're talking about finding someone and plugging them in, as you say, and finding their right fit, you also mentioned having people serve and it refreshes them. Can you go a little deeper into what that means? Maybe for someone who has never volunteered and they're out there thinking, you mean I'm going to feel more energetic, more enriched after I give up my time? What does that mean? How does that work?
They're probably thinking I'm crazy.
Yeah.
The only thing I can compare it to is, for example, when you go to the gym. When you first start going to the gym, you don't want to go to the gym. But you get on the treadmill and you walk and you feel better because your body has gotten some movement. Your blood's flowing, your oxygen levels going through your body, and your body feels better. To me, when I serve or when I volunteer somewhere, no matter where it is, I get that feeling. I am refreshed. I do have, sometimes I have to go home and sit down for a minute and just be quiet for a minute because I am so refreshed. I can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's such a good feeling that you just want to sit in it for a minute.
Yeah.
Don't you agree? And it may not be every time, but for me, it's 90% of the time.
Yeah.
There may be days when you don't feel good, or your body is struggling or fighting something off, but you're gonna go do it anyway, and you are exhausted. But then the next day, you're glad you did it. And just, I don't know, Matt, how to really explain it other than that.
Yeah.
But it is a refreshing. And I'll admit there's some times when I used to help in a woman's shelter. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, today's the day, and I'm just so busy and I'm so exhausted from work. But I did it because I had committed to do it. I'd made that commitment. And I'm not one to not stand up to my commitment.
Yeah.
And so I would go do it, and I would be totally exhausted. And I felt like I would tell the Lord, I am so sorry. I felt like I didn't give my 100%. But then the ladies at the end of the night, I would spend 2 hours with them. Just them thanking me for the 2 hours I gave them that month. It was a month. 2 hours a month was all I gave them. And to see the joy that I brought for those 2 hours, or the time that we got to sit and discuss things, or we may make a craft, just sitting and visiting and getting to know them. We may play a game. It did so much for them that when I would go to my car all the way home, I was just, Lord, thank you. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I didn't go out searching for that. It was something that someone brought to me and said, hey, I have a need. Do you think you would care to do this? And I was like, I'll do it. I couldn't stop. I mean, that once a month opportunity was amazing. And I would start sharing that, and I would have other people that would say, can I go with you this month? So then we would do different things. One night we went out and cooked. One night we made a craft. One night, and just see how we could connect with those ladies was the thing. It's like I said, I was like, Lord, I'm sorry I didn't give my all. The ladies were like, and I would go back, if I saw them, they would come to church here. Oh, thank you so much. And I'd say, no, I need to apologize. I don't feel like I gave you my all that night. And they're like, what? So just being able to pour into someone else, even when you don't realize it, is huge. And now I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you definitely did. Yeah, because we're talking about how volunteering can also refresh you.
Yes, it is. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It does for me.
Yeah.
And I do express that in my class, that volunteering is a spot that's supposed to refresh you, not drain you.
Yeah.
And there are things that drain you, and there's things that refresh you.
Yeah.
So I always ask them to choose the thing that refreshes you. There may be a season when the Lord asks you to do something, but again, he's not going to give you something that he's not going to give you the strength to walk through. But there may be something over here that you need. And if you be obedient and do it, again, you're going to get refreshed. And it's just amazing.
Yeah. Debbie, would you have anything to add to that? As a professional volunteer, you have a very fulfilling life, you said, and,
I do.
and feel refreshed.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who say that doesn't make sense?
It's not supposed to make sense. And I think that is why it doesn't make sense, because I'm going to use the most recent example. We were in Botswana for Project Playground, and it was 103. We were out on the sand. The bottom of my boots actually melted off. The rubber of them melted off, and they had to super glue them back on to the bottom. We were working from as soon as light, maybe a little bit before the light came up, because the coolest part of the day.
Yeah.
Coolest part of the day. And then working till the sun went down, basically. And so the people there that we were working with locally, it was a lot of young people that were probably in their 20s. And they saw us come from the airport, and they're like, we see all these gray-haired older people, and we're like, how in the world are they going to do this? And I feel like a lot of times what God calls me to do is like, how in the world am I going to do this? And sometimes less now, but sometimes I would talk back and be like, you don't really want me to do this or whatever. And there's this why I can't do this. And then I'm like, oh, okay. But the reason it doesn't make sense is like those people who were like, okay, here's all these old people coming to build this playground in the heat. Have they ever been in the heat in Botswana? You know, it's like, well, Texas is pretty hot too.
Yeah.
We had a really hot summer this year.
Yes.
And so it's like, and we got it done. I mean, like, I was a little overwhelmed too when we looked at it, and we're like, we have to take this one down. We have to put this one up. We have to put this one up at this orphanage. We have 4 days, basically, full days or whatever. How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
That's what God wants people to do. Go like, how in the world are they going to do it? And then we do it. And then they go, how did you do that? Because the Holy Spirit's in you, and there's no limit. There's no limit. My body in the physical world has limits, you know, but he has no limit.
Yeah.
And so because I'm in his purpose and doing what he's willed for me to do, I don't have the limit, but it's only because of him. So when it doesn't make sense, then they ask you, how are you doing this? In the power of the Holy Spirit. That's the only way. I mean, I don't pretend that I have energy. I don't pretend that I feel good. I feel good. I'm not like, you know, this is the pat answer. You feel great. Like, I shouldn't feel great after that, and I should be sore all over my body. One time I rolled we're doing chainsaw crew, rolled this huge, like, tree log thing over my foot. I should have broken my foot, and I didn't even have a bruise on it. So it's like, you know, it's like God does it in the places that it doesn't make sense so that he gets the glory. So people say, yeah, you couldn't do that on your own, but you can in his power. So that's how I feel.
Can I turn the table and ask you a question?
Yes. Okay. Go for it.
So let's see if you remember this. So when you first, when I first met you, when you first came on staff, and the first time I saw you get on stage with a microphone, I was like, this dude's amazing. He knows what to say, when to say it. He never stops. This is a gift that the Lord has given you. And so when I moved over to, or even before, when I would help Reach with their serve days, and I came to you and said, Matt, I need you to be an MC. You're like, me? Why? And I was like, no, I need this guy to be this MC. The day that, because I knew you were kind of like, again, why in the world is this woman asking me to MC something?
Yeah.
You didn't see that gift and talent in you, but it is amazing. How do you remember that day, how you felt just getting out there and being an MC at an event?
Yeah. That's a great question, because it was one of those few church events where I was there as a volunteer.
Yes.
So not in any official staff capacity. People would ask me questions. I don't know. I'm just a volunteer. It was great. It was a mix of fear and just complete reward. Of the fear being, really, can I do this? Did she ask the right person? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And at the end, just feeling like, wow, I can't believe that by simply picking up a microphone and saying whatever comes to my mind can help somebody. And to me, it just goes to show that, one, part of it is trusting the people who see things in you and are calling that out of you. There's a certain aspect of there are things about us we might not see, but others do. And them asking us can be that catalyst, which you were for me. And then another aspect of that was a part of me that honestly I had tried to shut down, because all through school, I was the kid who got in trouble for talking nonstop. And every report card, my grades were okay, and I was a talker. And so that was a part of me that I had tried to push down and not talk. But you saying, I think God could use this part of you to bless us and bless others, was a refresher to me of saying, even the things that I'm not thinking or even necessarily proud of, God can use in a great way to now look, I get to interview you guys about volunteering, and you're turning around because you're the reason I'm here. Thanks, Penny.
Yeah,
it's
she's
all your
recruited
fault.
us both.
Yeah, the joke's on me. I'm on Penny's podcast right now.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do have an example of a time, and this was not me, but it was somebody else on a trip that I went on with youth who was not proud of something, and God used it. And it always really impressed me. It's like a really good visual, or like, I don't know, it's just easy illustration of how that works. In the church that I was with, we were on a mission trip with high schoolers. And so I was helping lead that. And there was a girl there who, the church was situated in the woodlands. So most of the kids lived in the woodlands. But this girl lived on a farm, and she tried to hide the fact that she was kind of a country girl and she lived on this farm, because it didn't really fit with what she thought was cool, or what those people would think was cool in the woodlands. So she was on this trip with us, and I'd even talked to her a little bit about her feeling uncomfortable about that, and that it made her different, but it was a different that she was trying to hide. She wasn't really proud of it. Well, of course, God saw the big picture, and we were at this orphanage where we were getting ready for the missionaries to open this orphanage. It wasn't open yet. Well, they had gotten these chickens, hens and roosters, but the hens were not laying eggs. Well, none of us on that trip knew anything about it, because they wanted them to lay eggs for the kids that would be at the orphanage, so that they'd have something to eat. And so they were like, we can't figure out what's happening with these hens. And she like reluctantly was like, I've raised chicken. This is before chickens were cool to have at your house.
Now they're cool.
Yeah, now like everybody has their chickens in their house. But anyway, so this was before that. And so she like reluctantly said, can I go look at them? And so they took her. She was uniquely gifted and available and on that trip, ready to serve. She went, and she immediately was like, there's too many roosters. The hens are stressed out because there's too many roosters and they won't lay eggs. So as soon as she told them, like, there's a ratio or something of how many roosters you should have to hens. And as soon as they did that, even like in the process of the time that we were there, they started laying eggs.
Wow.
And so it's like, God's like, and so sometimes you learn random stuff, or you've gone to a class, or like some real weird thing that for a short time even, or you led this particular thing, and you're somewhere serving in some totally different way. He's done that with me too. And he uses it for his good and for his glory. And like, I felt like he was telling her, what you have learned from that is valuable, and I can use it, and you can use it to help other people. And it's something not to be, and then all of the kids on there are like, wow, that's so awesome. Because none of us would have known what to do, and like, now the kids they have eggs to eat. And so it was just beautiful so I think like, don't downplay some of either the things you've been through. Like you've been through a divorce, there's divorce care, and there's divorce care for kids. Like the things that have been difficult in my life, God's used it. And he always draws me to people who are kind of going through those similar situations. Yeah. And he uses it. It heals me too from how I've walked through it. And then sometimes it's painful, but you're able to have a unique empathy with that person. You don't know exactly what happened, but you can help them also to heal and to have a hope. Yeah. And so to me, when he was doing that, he was solving that problem of the eggs for the orphans, and he cared about the orphans, but he cared about this girl, and that you do have something valuable to share, and it can be used for my glory. Even something like knowing how many roosters
Yeah.
be with the hens.
Absolutely. God could have made those hens lay eggs, but he used her, a young girl from across the world.
Yeah.
That happened to be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
to
another
show
country.
her, you're valuable. Wow. People need what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
you don't have to hide it. You don't have to be ashamed of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of times it's not good to go through a trial, but we all go through trials. We live in this world.
We're going to, yeah.
But it's good to be able to help someone else through that if you've been through it.
Yeah.
Just to reach out. And we have so much going on here at the church and so many avenues of people to be able to get plugged in to help, you know, with what the Lord's instilled in them.
Yeah.
And so my suggestion would be is to just reach out, jump into it, both feet into an area. If you're not sure, just visit with someone, ask someone, come to me, ask me, what do you think my gift and talent is? And I can help draw that out. Go to Matt.
Yeah,
He's always over. Go to Debbie. Go to someone, a friend. What do you see as a talent I have?
Yeah.
And it could absolutely be something that you're trying to just like you said.
Yeah.
You were trying to push it down and hide from it. This young girl was trying to push it down and hide from it. But the Lord gave that to you, and it's an awesome talent that you have.
Yeah.
And so that's why he gives them to us.
Yeah.
To use for his glory. And
Yeah.
when you're able to do it, it totally refreshes you.
Yeah. I think in my time serving in ministry, I don't think I can name a single volunteer I've fired for lack of skill.
Right.
Can you think of?
No.
Have you ever been, quote, fired from volunteering for lack of skill?
No, but we joke about that sometime. I'm going to be fired from my volunteer position.
Never. Not here you won't. No. No, I think for me, one of the biggest keys to volunteering is we talked about obedience, but also consistency.
Yes.
You made a commitment.
Commitment.
I would rather you show up and not know a thing than show up
Don't show up
sporadically and be an expert.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to knowing where you fit, I feel like that's something you can find along the way. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree.
That the first step is taking a step. What would you say if someone has never volunteered? They're thinking, okay, maybe I should get involved at a church, in my community somewhere. What would you give them as a great first step for knowing where to reach out?
Again, I would say if they're in church and they're in church every Sunday, then I would say start there. Look in your local church, see what is available Sundays or Wednesdays. If your job only allows you to come to church for a service, come to be fed. Come to church and sit and be fed.
That's good.
Find another spot that maybe you're off on a Tuesday. And maybe start at your child's school.
Yeah.
You know the schools always need help. Maybe go to your local food pantry. Maybe go to a nonprofit. Nonprofits always need help. Just because you cannot volunteer in your church because of your job doesn't mean you can't volunteer. Any aspect that you go, the Lord's going to bless, whether it is in a nonprofit, in a school, wherever it is, and you're in a food pantry, at a woman's or a man's shelter, wherever it is, if you step out in faith and know that you're not, let me see how I can get blessed today. Let me see what I can say. Oh, look what I did. The Lord's going to bless it.
Yeah.
And he's going to make a way for you to find that one thing that really, truly is something that he planted inside of you for his glory. It's going to happen. It may not happen right away, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the places that he sends you or that you go through are going to be learning tools that you're going to need in the spot that he is going to plant you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Debbie, would you have anything to add on top of that?
I think going and that making it that this is a commitment. It's not like another activity that I'm checking off and that it's optional, but that praying about it, and this is part of not saying yes to everything. Mm-hmm. Can I make this commitment? Does it fit in my schedule, and that I am going to commit to it, because obstacles are going to come up. There have been times, and I would say the more that the obstacles come, the more that you're going to have an opportunity to change someone's life forever, and that they're going to know Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so there have been times, and I do want to share this, like you guys were saying, like I never would have thought she would have had, a pity party or whatever. I do want to share, like, it's not like, yes, God can change my attitude and my heart, but there is like real spiritual warfare against, if somebody's going to know Jesus, there's going to be obstacles put down. There have been times when I've been immobilized that I know I'm supposed to go somewhere. I know I'm in God's will, and I cannot make myself like move towards it. Like, so then God will just say, okay, what's the next thing you need to do? I can think of a specific situation. Pack your bags. And so then it's like, okay. And it takes like all my energy, but I pray, like, what am I supposed to take even? How am I supposed to prepare? And I get my bags packed. There was this time I had actually like physically driven, it was for a disaster relief, to the place, and I couldn't get out of my car. And I was like, I can just drive back home or whatever. I was so immobilized by it. And it took prayer there, and God's just like, open the door, put your leg out of the car. And this is something I had done before. Yeah. But I mean, it was there were risks to it, but it wasn't like a brand new situation and in a new place. And it's like, move your leg, get your bags out of the car, go check in. I mean, it was that much that I was overwhelmed and like immobilized. And during that time, because God had prepared the hearts or whatever, I was able to lead a man to Jesus, and his brother and his cousin and his wife and his kids and the neighbor across the street and the neighbor down the street. And then like the Holy Spirit just took it and threw everybody, like that whole neighborhood. Wow. And so it was like this movement. And that's why, though, I believe, like in retrospect, that there was such resistance to it. Was it me? No, it was the power of the Holy Spirit that prepared all those hearts in that way. But like, and so when I get those times where like I can't go, and like I have all these reasons, and it's not making a difference, and these kids have terrible attitudes, and I'm not going to do it anymore, and all this stuff. I do have those thoughts that go through my head, but I know they're not coming from God. If you look at a thought and it's telling you you're not special, you're not good enough, look what you did in the past, why do you think you can make a difference in this? Why do you think this qualifies you to do this? Those thoughts are not coming from God. God's going to say, get out of the car. I told you to do this. Be obedient. I'm with you always. I have those 5 smooth stones that Pastor Allen put on that bookmark by my sink. And the truth of Scripture, and like just praying to him and being connected to him to get me to be obedient when I don't want to persevere. I know now it makes me more determined when I have those obstacles, because something great's going to happen. I'm so glad transformation is going to happen. And so like that I need to persist like that. And it's not always going to be easy, but what is being told in your mind, and then identify, where's that coming from? It's not coming from God. And so I do need to commit and be obedient to what he's called me to do, that it is important, and you get to have the privilege of seeing that transformation.
Right. I'm so glad that you shared that. Because a lot of people do think that way. I'm not making a difference. Or, it's a good thing that you listened and opened the door, didn't turn around and drive back home.
I would have regretted it so much. I know. And I would have been very disappointed. But
And, I think oftentimes with volunteering, we can set out with the mindset of, I want to volunteer to help out to make a difference in this ministry, in this community, in this area, oftentimes I feel like the biggest difference it makes is with myself and the impact I have in my own life when I put myself aside, as we started off at the beginning, and serve others, or even just give my mind on the thoughts of others. I think that's such a great key to volunteering is life isn't always about us, and that's okay.
Yeah. You know? And it's not always what I have found a lot of times too. It's not, a lot of times you don't serve the people that you think that you're going to serve, you know, because God gives you eyes. And that's why when you were talking about getting started somewhere, like Don and I, my husband and I, helping you prepare for children's was just us praying with the eyes of, where is there a need? So just get somewhere to start volunteering and start observing and praying to God, give me the eyes to see, where do they need help? How can my unique gift be used here? With Matt, with Project Playground, with my background in development with children, then going to him saying, I have so many times gone to people and said, I know this sounds crazy, but the Holy Spirit has put this in my heart. Do you need help in this area? And then they'll be like, yeah. But like, again, sometimes I'm even hesitant to ask because I'm like, this sounds crazy. But again, God's like showing you and like helping you guys, like Penny's saying, yes, the staff could do that, but if you can fill that need so that they are able to do other things and also not be stretched so thin, and you're, you know, like with Moses, with Aaron and her holding up the arms, like I'm tired. You're holding up those arms for somebody so that they can have victory and they can have help. We were at the food bank yesterday, and actually somebody said, well, because I was asking why the staff person wasn't with our team anymore. We kind of have this regular team on Tuesdays at the food bank that serve together. And they're like, well, Tuesdays, we tell him he doesn't need to be there because you guys just run it on your own. And they've been low staffed for so long that they just assign him somewhere else. And I'm like, well, I guess that's good, but we miss you. At the same time, I never get to see you anymore. But and so, you're feeling a need where, again, it's not just, I'm just going there to put
a can in a box.
I was trying to think of what I put in there yesterday. What was it? Melons and watermelons. Anyway, not just putting that in the box. But so you end up serving a lot of times because God shows you those people who are really hardworking who don't get the, what do you call it? Recognition. That are really doing the hard jobs, like at schools and stuff like that. And you can find ways, he'll show you ways to bless those people. So it turns into something that maybe it started out this way, but just get in there, like you said. Just be obedient, make a commitment to it.
And follow through on that commitment. Follow through. Don't say, oh,
because people are counting on you. You're really counting on that person. You really are.
And in different areas, and I use this in class as well. In art kids, they have ratios.
We do.
And what would you feel like if you were the person that was here for the very first time? You're coming to church, you are unchurched, and you're coming to church for the very first time with your child. And they have to look at you and say, I'm sorry, we cannot take your child because we're at ratio. Because someone didn't stand up to their commitment and be in that room. How would you like to be that person? That is not, the Lord says, everybody jump in, help each other, love your brothers and sisters. Just, take that covering for one another. And so there's always a time when maybe, maybe you did come down with the flu, so you can't serve that day.
Please stay home.
Yes, absolutely. So there's someone else that can fill your spot. If everyone steps up, it's not just like, I'm a volunteer. What are they going to do? Fire me? No, they're not. But that's between you and the Lord. You need to have that discussion with the Lord, why you felt like, oh, my toe hurts today, so I'm going to stay home. because he'll use someone else and he'll be able to bless them immensely.
Yeah.
And to be able to stand and look at that person and say, oh, you know what? So-and-so just showed up. We can take your child in now, you know,
Yeah.
because we want to reach the young.
Yeah.
We want them to be able to come to church and learn what maybe we didn't get to,
Yeah.
you know, to be able to take that opportunity and have a stronger faith or be able to use it sooner
Yeah.
than when we had that opportunity
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
So-
And I love the story you shared, Debbie, of Aaron and her holding up Moses's arms, because that is such a picture of volunteering and ministry in general,
Yes.
I think. Because at the end of the day, in that story, the Israelites are victorious. They slay the Philistine army and they have their victory. But who gets the credit? It's not Joshua who led the army. It's not Moses who stood on the hill. It's not Aaron and who held his hands up. It was God.
Yes.
And all of them
Only through him.
were privileged to play a part of that.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what volunteering is. It's having that privilege to play a part of what God has for you here on earth.
Yes.
And
I have a story of
'Kay.
something like that. I was in a transition time. I was more out in the halls instead of in the room. They were just short one day, so I went in the room to help. It was a room that I usually never go in. And there was a child, it was during praise and worship, and he was just sitting down on the back row, gloomy. And it just kind of hurt my heart a little bit. You know, here's everybody standing up, they're worshiping. So I just went up behind him, kind of tickled his ribs a little bit to get and I was like, come on. And I helped him stand up. And I did. I grabbed his arms and we're dancing. And that was a turnaround for him that I didn't realize. Weeks later, his parent came to me and said, thank you. And I'm like, thank you. I had totally forgotten about it. And they brought it to my memory, you know, well, you're not usually in there, but you were in there, and their child went home and told their parent, oh, I want to go back. It was a turning point for that child. So thinking that you cannot make a difference, I never thought about that as making a difference. I was just being me.
Yeah.
I'm silly. And I'm just playing with this child. And they're still here. They still come. And it made he sees his class is totally different now. He enjoys it. He engages with it. Totally different than sitting on the back row being glum. So no matter the smallest of things, sweeping up trash, directing someone in the parking lot. As long as we're doing it as unto the Lord and smiling and rejoicing in it, it's going to help someone.
I think too that was what was coming to my mind too is when we are working as a church together and we're working in teams, the importance of demonstrating unity within when we're serving, because people are looking at what you're doing and what you're saying to each other wherever you are, wherever you're serving. And so I think it's so important, and you need to be prayerful about it, but like really showing that unity. And sometimes when I go serve, it's with where churches have come from all different places. And the fact that is also a testimony to people, because a lot of times they'll think people within a church can't get along. That's why I don't go to church, because, and all this stuff. And then, or especially within churches from different denominations, from different places. And when they do see people come together and share those resources and able to work together in a loving way, I always, if I'm leading a team with Reach, say, you're here to do this, but people are also watching how you're doing that. How are you treating each other and the people that you are coming to serve? But how are you working together? And, is what you're saying matching up with what you're speaking and doing, And so I think that when you go into a serving situation where you're going to volunteer, you're looking at who's in authority here. I'm under that authority. I can ask for prayer to see how I can contribute. And then how am I serving in a unified way, like a loving way with all the people I'm serving with, so that you show that unity of, especially, well, wherever you go, but within the church too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people are watching.
They're
Yeah.
watching all the
They're
time.
always watching.
They want to see, oh, you confess to be a Christian? Let's see how you act.
And you don't have to be perfect. And there will be situations a lot of times that you're uncomfortable and tired and everything.
Yeah.
But even, especially in those situations, it's not an excuse like I'm hot, I'm tired, I'm uncomfortable. I've been doing this, but that they see that you are still that way. And if you make mistakes, which you're always going to make mistakes, that you're willing to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
If you've hurt someone's feelings or whatever, because sometimes you can misinterpret a situation or go in with a preconceived idea, and so I'm always willing with free with the asking for forgiveness when I jump to the wrong conclusion or whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Penny, Debbie, thank you both very much for being on the podcast and for giving our listeners a taste of how we can get involved in volunteering and the benefits that has for us. So thank you both very much. And thank you guys for tuning in. And I hope you join us again next time on Friends You Can Grow With.